And a very happy Tuesday to you at 12:07 in the West. It's the John Phillips Show. Mr. Randy Wang's in Culver City.
Here we are, Johnny. It's day 5 of the 2025 L.A. riots. Day 4 included over 100 arrests, including 96 arrests for failures to disperse, 14 arrests for looting. Several businesses were looted in downtown L.A. last night, including an Apple store.
How many sets of riots have we gone through in Los Angeles?
We had the 2025 riots that we're going through right now. We had the 2020 BLM riots. You also had the 2023 Gaza riots. You had the original BLM riots in 2014, 2015. You had the Wall Street takeover in 2010. You had the 92 riots. You had the civil rights riots. You had the Watts riots. This city is better known for rioting than Hollywood at this point.
I'll tell you, I think we've had more riots than they've made Fast and Furious movies. And that's hard to do. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. Well, we've raised this question before, but Randy, I think today we can make it official. Karen Bass is officially the worst mayor in the history of Los Angeles, eclipsing former L.A. Mayor Eric Garcetti.
I received things on both ends.
Without a doubt, I don't think anybody at this point can argue that Garcetti was worse than Karen Bass is now.
I've got to tell you, I feel like I'm living in a simulation that's one big episode of The Twilight Zone. Because on this program, we talk about news that's going on here in California and sometimes beyond. We're aware of what's going on in the world around us. We're aware, for example, that there have been protests, that there have been riots, that there have been police officers who have had objects thrown at them, fireworks shot at them, businesses have been looted, property has been destroyed. We know that the FBI now has one of these people on the top 10 most wanted list for throwing cinder blocks and bricks at federal agents as they've been driving through the streets of Los Angeles.
And don't forget all the torched Waymos. I don't understand what the Waymos did to anybody.
But apparently they pissed someone off.
Waymo is actually suspending service in downtown L.A. and downtown San Francisco, where Waymos got torched there, too.
But the powers that be are taking the official position that nothing happened. Nothing happened. These were peaceful protests. Whoever's saying they were violent's a liar. Whoever's saying that there was stores that were looted, they're propagandists. They're trying to create a scenario where Donald Trump can send in the National Guard, but everything's fine, everything's taken care of, the LAPD aren't overrun. None of that's happening. Stop believing your lying eyes and believe us.
And you know what's interesting is you look at the places where those messages are being sent. Karen Bass is not doing a whole lot of local interviews. She did a press conference this morning, and we'll talk about that. But she is going on MSNBC 3-4 times a day, going on CNN, going on left-wing podcasts. Gavin Newsom has done every left-wing podcast that's out there to downplay what's really going on out here. They're all retreating into their own silos.
I talked to a friend this morning who is an educated person, has a college degree from an accredited institution in the Northeast. Great job, smart person, fun person, partisan Democrat. And this person told me this morning, why do you keep saying things got out of hand? It was just a protest. And I said, no. Stores were looted. Officers were injured. Fireworks got shot at the horses. None of that happened.
Did you see the video last night? Alex Michelson was highlighting this, where someone was just taking a hammer and chipping away at a street curb to take the rock that would come out of that and throw it at people.
Oh, no, Randy, don't you watch cable? That never happened.
Listen to some of Karen Bass downplaying the violence last night on Rachel Maddow's show on MSNBC.
We had a protest. There was violence that took place. There was vandalism that took place, primarily in the form of graffiti. It was around 120 people. We are a city of 3.8 million. Our police department could take care of that.
But they didn't.
No, they didn't. It was chaos.
They were overwhelmed. That's the chief's words himself. She continued to downplay on Rachel Maddow's show. Listen to this.
There was no mass civil unrest. I will tell you that some of the pictures that you see on the national news looks like our entire city is in civil unrest. You are talking about a handful of streets in downtown Los Angeles.
Wow, we are downplaying.
Nothing happened. What are you talking about?
Now,
Just because this isn't like 2020 when the valley was also burning at the same time downtown wasn't burning doesn't mean that this isn't serious.
Now, I will tell you the vandalism that has taken place is absolutely atrocious in the form of graffiti, obscene graffiti all over.
It's not just graffiti.
No. How about the looting? How about the fires?
Clearly tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of damage. But I don't think you send out the Army or the Marines because people are writing graffiti on a wall. And then you saw violence yesterday where they were setting cars on fire.
Wait, you just said right now that it's all just graffiti.
Well, the Waymos don't even have a driver, Randy. I mean, that's no big deal.
I'm a little afraid of what we do to robots because we don't think anybody's watching.
Yeah, the robots have a long memory.
Let me be very clear. To me, if you really support the rights of immigrants, you're not setting cars on fire. You're not vandalizing buildings. And so I don't...
So what are we doing to stop that?
You notice, by the way, she just doesn't even acknowledge the actual violence that took place. Like, oh, I don't know, City Hall staffers who work for her allies on the council who were arrested for attacking the cops.
That person's on paid leave.
And so I don't think that that is acceptable. You are going to be subject to arrest. And
No, you're not.
No, not in L.A. With a little home cooking, it's anything goes.
How many people were arrested and prosecuted for the BLM riots in 2020? How many people are arrested and prosecuted for shutting down freeways during the Gaza riots?
How many, Karen?
And prosecution to the full extent of the law, but we should not...
Was anybody arrested for shutting down the 101 freeway back in May?
Not only was the freeway shut down, you notice that there were food trucks there that were selling food to the people who were blocking the freeway. There were churro vendors down there, and nobody cared.
And you saw that video going around where there was a van passing out anti-riot gear?
Oh, yeah, like they're ready for warfare.
And prosecution to the full extent of the law, but we should not use that to say then that our city needs to be taken over by the military.
Well, obviously, whoever's in charge of the city, which is you, can't handle what's going on here because it's been 4 nights in a row of mayhem, and it's getting worse every night.
You see, Randy, it was just a little graffiti. It's not like the cops were overwhelmed or anything.
Well, Karen Bass was actually asked about that. Karen Bass was on KTLA this morning. She's doing every interview she could possibly want to do. And she was asked specifically about Jim McDonnell admitting the police were overwhelmed and they were under attack by the rioters.
I heard the LAPD Chief McDonnell on Sunday night saying that his officers were overwhelmed by some of these protesters who became violent. Do you not think that the fact that there is this response from the federal government could potentially be useful if things get out of control?
No, I mean, if things were to get so out of control.
They already have.
He just quoted your own police chief, the man you appointed, as saying that they are.
And that was Sunday. We already had a whole other day of violence and insanity and looting.
Maybe, but there is no semblance of that right now. What the chief was referring to is that he needed and received mutual aid, which means...
He said he was overwhelmed.
Those were his words, not ours.
See what Bass has to say about the looting.
Let's talk about some of the things that happened overnight. I mean, there's a section in the jewelry district where some businesses were looted by some of these people who you call fringe groups. I mean, what is your understanding of what is happening and how can that be stopped?
Well, it can be stopped with a very strong presence.
But it wasn't.
No. They were allowed to do whatever they wanted.
You saw those videos. The thing is, now we have riots in the age of everyone having a camera in their pocket, and you get to see on the ground level from so many different angles what's going on. It was complete lawlessness in downtown LA last night and the night before that and the night before that and the night before that.
In fact, the looters were taking so many selfies in the shops that the cops said they're going to try to find those selfies as evidence to use against them.
Unfortunately, of our local law enforcement. And I am hopeful that this behavior will end, because I do not believe, although I might find out differently, that there's no large protests that are that are expected. And I will say that...
You really think this is going to stop today? You have given no indication at all that you're willing to crack down on it. So people know that when it gets dark in downtown LA, do whatever the hell you want. It's the purge.
And guess what? I saw some of these people who had their shops looted on television last night. Apparently, none of the jewelry shops have insurance. And the jewelry shops, which in downtown Los Angeles are primarily owned by small business owners, got hit.
Yeah, that's a whole new trend. We've seen that with all the other jewelry store robberies lately, too. Apparently, insurance is so expensive for jewelers, they just don't have it.
And I will say that, people that do this, they're not doing it on behalf of the immigrants. The vandalism...
Really? All the graffiti says bleep ICE.
And, when I saw them going into the convenience stores and the other shops on television last night with my own two eyes, they were bringing the Mexican flag in there with them.
If Karen Bass wants to make the argument that these are just the anarchists that come out even when the Lakers win, when anything happens, and they just want to torch the city, then why are you not cracking down on them? Why have you not given the order to put all of these people away?
One of the looters last night with the biggest Mexican flag I saw was in a wheelchair, and he had the Mexican flag attached to the wheelchair as he was looting the convenience store.
The vandalism and obviously a robbery like this is insane. But these people need to know that they are going to be arrested and prosecuted to the full extent of the law.
Sure.
No, they're not.
And
there were no cops anywhere near those areas.
And
You know how many arrests there were for looting last night? 14. I saw way more than 14 people inside just the Apple store.
There were more people looting those shops than I saw at my last Angel game in Anaheim.
And they should not rest in thinking that they went home that night and they're not going to get arrested, because investigations will happen. There's a ton of video footage, and they will be taken into custody. And so it is just very, very unfortunate. There is never, ever an excuse for violence, and I think...
But you're allowing it.
If you wanted to stop it, you could. You don't want confrontations between the cops and the looters because we know which side you're on.
And I think that we need to do everything in our local power to suppress
You
it.
are not. You are the mayor. If you wanted to shut it down, you could. You chose not to. She acts like she's just sitting in a chair in a living room watching the news going, well, someone should shut this down.
And saying that we have everything under control when it is obvious to anyone who has seen what's gone on in downtown LA for the last 4 nights that it is not under control.
So this is what LA's mayor is saying. We have a large congressional delegation that has been doing their rounds on television, and many of them are saying nothing happened at all. They're denying that officers were assaulted. They're denying that fireworks were shot at the officers. They're denying that any looting took place.
Including Maxine Waters.
And even those who were out of step with what we are advocating, peaceful protest, did not create any violence. Nobody was shot. Nobody was killed. Get it in your head. And so when martial law is called, what are you going to say? I missed the point. Don't miss the point, you all. Don't think.
Can we stop electing 80-year-olds to Congress already?
I think she's like 86 or 87.
Don't think that somehow, because they called out the National Guard, there was violence. There was no violence.
They called out the National Guard and there was violence.
And it was on every single channel last night, lady.
because the locals don't want to coordinate with the National Guard. The National Guard is only pretty much allowed to be defending the federal buildings instead of assisting the police, because apparently now the same National Guard that we just called to help us out with the LA fires, we don't want to talk to them because Trump called them first.
I was on the street, I know, and I went from downtown detention back out into the community, talking to people what happened in Paramount, what happened in Compton.
What happened in Paramount was people were throwing Molotov cocktails at the police, and a Fox 11 van that was driven by Matthew Seedorf got destroyed.
A bunch of them did. So did KTLA, so did Telemundo.
What happened in Paramount, what happened in Compton, what happened in Inglewood. So, first of all, get it straight and don't just rely on what you're being told or the few incidents that you saw.
Don't rely on what you've seen.
Stop listening to your own eyes and ears. Nothing happened. I thought I had seen it all until this. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number. 1-800-222-5222. Here's the question. Is this the new Joe Biden's fine? Is this Biden's fine 2.0? Nothing happened last night. There was no looting. There was no destruction of property. There were no officers injured. None of that happened. It was a peaceful protest. Everyone get on the same page. Is that the new lie that everyone is expected to repeat ad nauseum here in California? 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. Well, a number of Democratic elected officials were either downplaying what happened last night or saying it didn't happen at all.
First of all, get it straight and don't just rely on what you're being told or the few incidents that you saw.
Is this Joe Biden is fine 2.0? 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, you're monitoring the mailbag.
Ricardo in San Jose writes in at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. Why wasn't the California Air Resources Board at the riots passing out fines for all the burning Waymos? It's probably easier to chase down gas-powered lawnmowers than leaf blowers. Do you know how toxic it is when you torch a Waymo?
Good point.
Those fires, because they have lithium-ion batteries in there, sometimes can't be put out for 24 hours. You just have to kind of let them burn out.
And it was just Waymo after Waymo after Waymo that was lit on fire. They were specifically targeting them.
I don't like the way we're treating the robots, because at some point the robots are going to fight back, and it's not going to be pretty.
800-222-5222 is the telephone number. 1-800-222-5222. Elected official after elected official has been going on TV for days now saying everything's under control, the LAPD's in charge, nothing to see here, or they're outright denying that it happened at all.
First of all, get it straight and don't just rely on what you're being told or the few incidents that you saw.
They want you to stop believing your eyes and ears and believe them. Is this the new Joe Biden is fine 2.0? 800-222-5222. Let's begin with Monica in Irvine. Monica, hello.
Hello, John. Thank you for taking my call. Hello, Randy. It seems like there's a lot of gaslighting going on with these crazy California officials. I don't know how people still believe them. There's plenty of footage. I saw some guy on stilts, and he got knocked down because he was agitating and interfering with the officers, and also people chopping up sidewalks to collect rocks to throw at officers. And then you even have officials going on TV and at the rallies and encouraging agitators to further agitate, and even Maxine Waters attempting to barge into federal buildings that are closed to the public. I mean, and only for Newsom and Bass to say that everything is fine and these were a community of immigrants. I mean, at this point, and then Newsom to go as far as to file a motion to block the National Guard and send the National Guard back. And he clearly can't handle this state. He couldn't handle the state from the beginning of his term, and even more evidentially at the beginning of this year when all of Los Angeles burned to the ground.
Could you imagine? Were you here in 1994?
Yes.
Okay. Could you imagine if after the Northridge quake, then Governor Pete Wilson, then L.A. Mayor Dick Riordan, if they were to go on TV and say, there was no earthquake, it never happened, the freeway didn't come down, freeway's fine, there's no fires, there's no destruction of buildings, there's nobody displaced, there was no earthquake, it never happened, move on, nothing to see here, everyone go back to work.
And we had virtually no internet at the time. Now we have, media, all sorts of media outlets and stringers. I mean, if you have your phone, you're informally part of the media. And for them to say that there's nothing going on, I mean, Newsom sent out 700 state officers, so he obviously knows that something is going on. And just the fires are erupting, and what you were saying earlier about all those Waymos. Why are they torching Waymos? What message does this send? If we're trying to show compassion for those who are here, with no papers, I mean, what is the point of torching property?
I assume if they had done that back in 1994, there would be a certain segment of the population that would have believed them. It's like if you've ever had a friend who's been in an abusive relationship where the husband hits the wife and the husband's a manipulative person. There are couples out there where the husband can convince the wife that it never happened. I never hit you. You got that black eye because you fell. That wasn't me. I never punched you. And at a certain point, I guess there are people who will eventually believe it.
They do. It's like repetition or classic gaslighting. It is classic gaslighting where the person convinces themselves that everything is fine because it's just easier that way. It's a coping mechanism.
All right. Thank you for the call. I appreciate it. Let's go to Joseph in North Hollywood. Joseph, hello.
Hi, John. Hi, Randy.
Hi there.
Last night I was watching the newscast, specifically Channel 11 with Alex Michelson. First time I ever heard that guy really get upset. There was a guy chipping off some of the pavement, and Alex really got upset. I was surprised because generally he stays pretty even keel, but he got pretty upset. And I was glad to see somebody in the media finally start calling these people out. He was saying, why can't we stop this? Why can't we stop this now? It should be stopped now. And the guy that he had interviewing him, he said, yes, this could be stopped now, but this is all political. Of course it's all political. The Clueless Karen this morning was on, actually last night, I was watching her on KTLA as well. And she's saying, I'm not trying to minimize this, as they're showing a flame going on there. She said, but it's really not happening all over L.A. Well, you are minimizing it, lady, and it is, regardless as to whether it's not happening all over L.A., it's happening, period. It shouldn't be happening at all. If these people could have shut this down in the beginning, but they didn't. They continue to allow this behavior. Same thing happened with the Floyd protest. They just waited and let everybody just do whatever they want. What do they expect to happen? What we are seeing is exactly because of Democratic policies and their thought about these immigrants. Well, they're not immigrants. These people are illegals. They are here illegally. They aren't supposed to be here. They need to leave. And her focus is one thing. It's Trump. It's not on these agitators. It's all on Trump. She needs to focus on getting the streets back in order. The chaos needs to stop. I have lived here since the 60s, and I am beyond disgusted. The thing that I'm really disgusted with are the people that voted for that person. How dare you vote for this idiot? You put an idiot in control, what's going to happen? You're going to get idiot policies. And that's what we have in this city. This city has been going down, down, down ever since Garcetti. And actually, probably even a little bit before that with Tony VR. I am so angry. I can't believe the things that I'm seeing, the things that are being allowed. It blows my mind, you guys. And I'm glad that at least someone is out there putting it out there, because I see all this misinformation, just like you played, the Mummy Maxine, that she's putting out all this crap out there, all this junk out there about it's not happening. Really? All you have to do is look at social media. It's all over Facebook. It's all over the news. Just watch the news. I'm just glad that some of our anchors are brave enough to actually say something about it so that we can put this to rest. But I'm going to ask the Democrats, all the Democrats in this city, don't believe this. Wake up, people, and start voting differently. That's the only way things are going to change in this state. We are in the hole. We are $1 billion in the hole. How much do you all think this is going to cost to clean up? All the graffiti and the destruction, the graffiti, and they're downplaying this, completely downplaying this, trying to make it seem that it's not as bad as it is. Well, it is that bad. It's terrible, people.
Well, I couldn't have said it better. I love your passion. And I also have to add this. Where do they think we're getting our information from? We're finding out what's going on either because we live there and we're talking to people, or because the news media is recording it and putting it on television or playing the audio on the radio. Who do you think is collecting that information? It's people who are probably just as liberal as the people who are in elected office. You think they're doctoring up the film to make it look worse than it is? Do you think they're trying to sensationalize it in a way to overplay how damaging it is? These people probably fill out their ballots the same way as Karen Bass. Those are the people we're getting the information from. So the fact that they're saying that it's not really happening, or it's not that bad, or in Maxine Waters' case, it's not happening at all, are they alleging that channels 2, 4, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, and the cable networks are doctoring all of the film?
Well, this is the media. Deny, deny, deny. It's not really happening. Look at Gavin Newsom. Oh, it's Trump because he provoked us. Are you kidding? It started before Trump did anything. As a matter of fact, the guards haven't really done much. What are they doing?
They're protecting federal buildings. The reason why they're saying it's not happening is if they acknowledge the LAPD is overwhelmed, then they need help, and the help will come in the form of the National Guard. And they don't want Trump to be able to help us. So by them saying nothing's happening, everything's fine, that's why we don't need the National Guard. They want the LAPD out there totally exposed with no one watching their backs, with no one providing help. They'd rather put the lives of the men and women in the LAPD at risk than to accept a gift from Donald Trump.
And by the way, let me say that I am of Mexican heritage. My father was born here in Santa Monica. My grandfather immigrated here at the turn of the 20th century legally. One of my prized documents that I have are his immigration papers that he got permission to come from Mexico to live here in the United States. I am a proud American. You'll never see me wave a Mexican flag because I love America. If you love Mexico so much, go back. Go there. They gave you a great deal. You wanted self-support? You'll get $1,000. We'll even give you a free ticket. You self-support. Get the heck out of here. Right now, you want to come back, you want to come here legally. We let in over 1 million immigrants a year. And for people to say that our immigration status is broken, baloney. What immigration system can handle millions and millions and millions of requests? Everybody wants to come here. There's no country that can handle that. It's not broken. It's really overwhelming because everybody wants to come here because this is the greatest country in the world. That's why they're coming here, and that's why they're staying here. And now they're fighting because these spoiled little brats who have been coddled for who knows how long are being told, no longer. You get to leave because we finally have a president in the Oval Office that is more than just words. He's actions. And that's the other thing about Democrats. All they are is words, words, words. No actions whatsoever. Zip, zero. So I back Donald J. Trump completely, and I'm glad what he's doing. And no, this is not his fault. This is your fault, Karen. This is your fault, Gavin. You guys are the ones who are responsible for this. Everything that's happening, this is on your hands. This is on your watch.
Thank you so much for the call, sir. I appreciate it.
We're going to steal Mummy Maxine. That's a great line.
Oh, my God, that's the best. I loved everything about that call. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number. 1-800-222-5222 is everything is fine. The new Joe Biden is fine 2.0. Here's the deal. I know that we usually mix in guests and we usually mix in sound and the crime blotter and things of that nature. But it's a one-topic show today, so we're going to go with this pretty much the entire show. We do have a guest at 2:35, but we're going to take calls all the way up until 2:35. So if you're on hold, stick with us. We'll get to as many calls as we can. I know a lot of people have a lot to say, and we want to give you all an opportunity to weigh in. Let's begin with John in Santa Monica. John, hello.
Yeah, John?
Yes, sir.
John, you there?
I'm here.
We're all Johns in this world now because we can't get doxxed. Face it, everybody's yelling. I feel so bad for poor Maxine, Mommy Maxine. You know, she created the riots in the George Floyd days, remember? Burn the streets down. So at 85, she's still pretty good. And Harris, who's even funnier because she's way out of her league. We know who she is. So now I think we should all become Johns because that's the only way we have to keep our identity. But what's funny, the whole world is watching this thing. And they're explaining exactly how when the Marines come and why this all works together, because people have documented stacks of bricks in back of buildings, not just the people breaking them off, in the back of buildings that are set up for revolutionaries to throw. That's
you can't say that, sir.
And you're done. By the way, that guy's name isn't John.
Oh, yeah?
I know exactly who that is. I won't say what his real name is, but he shows up. He's the guy that shows up at LA City Council meetings, and he waves around the fake male appendage. I know that voice. I know that voice. Call us anytime you want, buddy, but don't use a curse word. And if you're flailing that thing around, we don't know because it's radio.
And if we're all Johns, what is this, a Vice sting?
I swear, as soon as I heard that guy talk, I know that voice.
All right, let's go to Jessica in West L.A. Jessica, hello.
Yeah, I was the Weemoos, whatever those things with batteries that put very dangerous stuff into the air, the same as with the fire. People have had those huge batteries to keep the house going when the power would be down, which happens a lot in LA. And those things are all in the air. And so as soon as things had settled down enough that you didn't smell the smoke and charred smell, it seemed like a beautiful day, and it's sparkly. The sparkly turned out to be the metal from the heavy metals in those batteries, and it gets in your lungs and on your skin. And it was such a beautiful day. I worked 3 hours out in my garden trying to catch up with, filling up those green cans, and then I couldn't get up for 3 days, and it wasn't muscle fatigue. It was I couldn't breathe. And then I managed to get up, and I looked in the mirror, and oh, my God, my face had gotten all shriveled up. I tried to put moisturizer, and the moisturizer burned good moisturizers burn my skin. Oh my God, it's a chemical burn. And then,
It's real toxic out there.
Yeah, be careful if you're outdoors in Los Angeles right now because those Waymo fires, that's real.
John, I found the guy.
You want to know what I think about this? It's a like this one.
That was that guy.
Yeah, you're right. All right, if you're on hold, stay there. We'll get to more calls right after the news right here on The John Phillips Show.